Judi Chamberlin was an incredibly important woman to the disability movement. She brought a spark and excitement that nobody else had. And so stories about her will be definitely interesting. uh, and so that's what tonight is about. We have some people who have been invited to be here to tell stories. I have a story that somebody sent in that I'm going to read. KK's got some stories that she's going to tell that have been given to her. And hopefully some of you guys have stories to tell. So this is going to be a storytelling night. And so first we'll start with ones that people are ready to tell. And then if somebody inspires you and you're ready to tell a story, I mean, it might be something, it might not be about Judi per se. It might be something that Judi did, or it might even be something you hear about in a story that Judi did that had an impact on your life. And maybe you didn't even know before tonight who Judi was, and realize that part of the freedom that you have now is due to Judi. So that's what tonight is about,
Advocacy
keeping her alive.
strategies. That's right. And her heart for advocacy, the absolute passion for the fight, the movement, and the rights that it encompassed. I'm kind of hoping that it sparks that reignition in many of us. And kind of we can learn what did work back then. So maybe we could re-spark it, for the future. But I'm just really grateful. And I don't know if who wants to start off, but I know that David is here. And Mr. David Oakes, definitely an honor, privilege, and a joy for you to be present and with us. And I don't know if you would like to go first, but um,
Sure, sure, KK, and thanks, KK, for your support.
Thanks, KK, for your support.
Elijah will be repeating me.
I'm repeating for David.
Thanks, Elijah. Can you hear us both okay?
Can you hear us both okay?
Okay. You know, it's so wonderful to celebrate this 5th anniversary.
It's so wonderful to celebrate this fifth anniversary.
Yeah, Judi would be so pleased.
Judi would be pleased
that a grassroots effort like this has kept going.
That a grassroots effort like this has kept going.
Judi was one of the first people I met in our movement.
Judi was one of the first people I met in our movement.
My college referred me to intern volunteer at the group.
My college referred me to an intern volunteer at the group.
It was Mental Patient Liberation Front.
Mental Patient Liberation Front.
And I walked into a little storefront.
I walked into a little storefront.
And a group gathered, about a dozen of us.
And about a dozen of us gathered.
And one of them was Judi.
And one of them was Judi.
And everyone was very supportive and friendly.
Everyone was supportive and friendly.
We did peer support.
We did peer support.
We had many committees.
We had many committees.
And one day I realized, wow, each day is kind of a similar group.
And one day I realized each day was a similar group.
I mean, we were all so supportive.
We were all so supportive.
And in my first few months is when Judi's book came out.
And in the first few months is when Judi's book came out.
So suddenly we had an author in our midst.
And so suddenly there was an author in our midst.
And Judi spoke at a number of events nationally.
And Judi spoke at a number of events nationally.
This will actually, in next month, January.
Next month, January.
Will be the 50th year.
Will be the 50th
for
year.
me since I met Judi.
Will be the 50th year for me since I've met Judi.
1976.
What was that?
1976.
1976.
So one thing I appreciated about Judi over the decades.
One thing I appreciated about Judi over the decades.
I mean, obviously very radical.
Obviously very radical.
Identified as a psychiatric survivor.
Identified as a psychiatric
and
survivor.
a mental health consumer.
And a mental health consumer.
But never forgot psychiatric survivor.
But never forgot psychiatric survivor.
Our identity is often thrown under the bus.
Our identity is often thrown under the bus.
But Judi never did.
But Judi never did.
But also, she bridged radical and moderate.
But also, she bridged radical and moderate.
Judi loved like peer support.
Judi loved peer support.
And it's Judi who introduced me.
And Judi introduced me
to connecting with the whole disability movement.
To connecting with the whole disability movement.
Many of us radicals.
Many of us radicals.
At first, we, of course, rejected the goofy labels.
Of course, at first, we rejected the goofy labels.
I mean, schizophrenia, bipolar, psychotic.
Schizophrenia, bipolar, psychotic.
Mentally ill.
Mentally ill.
Chemical imbalance.
Chemical imbalance.
I mean, we fought that stuff.
We fought that stuff.
So when we connected to the whole disability movement.
So when we connected to the whole disability movement.
Many of us were very nervous.
Many of us were nervous.
A friend of mine wrote a long letter to Judi.
A friend of mine wrote a long letter to Judi.
That, you're not radical enough.
That you're not radical.
I mean, MPLF help people escape from psych facilities.
So one more time.
Well, MPLF. The week I joined. There was a report in the newspaper. About how they helped someone escape from a psych facility. But anyway, Judi connected us to the whole disability movement.
Judi connected us to the whole disability movement.
I mean, even if you're in a wheelchair like me.
Even if you're in a wheelchair like me.
I mean, we reject force.
We reject force.
Involuntary care. And Judi did this her whole career. Always stood fast on that. A psych label ain't enough to take away our liberty.
A psych label isn't enough to take away our liberty.
No disability label. So Judi was on the board for MindFreedom International. For years. She always went to protest. One thing I noticed about Judi. That I never was able to do. She was laser focused on her message. Empowerment. Peer support. Human rights. Liberty. She loved her button. Label jars, not people. So very accessible. Like when if you had a speaker, Judi was very strong.
If you had a speaker, Judi was very strong.
And personable.
And personable.
And focused.
And focused.
Clear. No, I will end up talking about quantum theory or whatever.
I would end up talking about quantum theory or whatever.
No. I don't know if people know.
I don't know if people know.
But briefly, Judi was actually married to Ted.
Briefly, Judi was married to Ted.
The Ted Jabotinsky.
Ted Jabotinsky.
He recently died. And extremely radical. So those two were briefly married. Before I met them. And as an example, how Judi connected radical and moderate.
That's an example of Judi connecting radical and moderate.
And so she's deeply missed. One final story. When I visited Judi in hospice. She was, at home hospice.
She was at home.
On
hospice.
For a long time. And I visited her. And she reminded me of a story. And we laughed. When I volunteered at MPLF. I put a memo on the wall. Revolution by Tuesday. And she loved that. Revolution by Tuesday. I just said, which Tuesday?
Revolution by Tuesday. I didn't say which Tuesday. Just Tuesday.
In a way, I frankly remember that moment. We did a goodbye video with Judi.
You did a goodbye video with Judi.
Well, she was alive.
While she was alive.
And I said, hey, Judi.
And I said, hey, Judi.
What this death thing is. Extreme disability. So Judi's definitely still here. Extremely disabled.
Just extremely disabled.
But her book, like, on her own.
What?
Her book was called On
Her book was called On Our Own.
And Connections. Our movement. I mean, was she still here? So build the movement. I love you all. Keep building it. Keep Judi alive. Thanks.
Revolution by Tuesday. That right there, David. Let's keep that heartbeat alive, because we're not going to say which Tuesday, but we'll keep that spirit and joy alive. You made me cry. I just want to thank you, because I could hear the heart, passion, and the connection, and how Judi really connected communities far and wide. And, that's really bringing inspiration to my heart for sure. I do have a story that Myra sent from our UN negotiations that I can share, and I have from Dr. Dan Fisher that he wanted to be present but had to have, the emergency heart surgery. But he's doing well. I've spoken with him. He's in recovery. But I know Jim Rye was here and he wanted to share a couple of Judi stories. I'm going to get a poster made. Revolution by Tuesday. I love that. That's awesome. Jim, if you'd like to share, and who else? If you guys, I think everybody has, even if you just want to share of the impact of her writings or of her advocacy work, or, I mean, I've read everything she's done over and over again. And there's one UN speech that just touched my heart. And I never knew this until Jim Rye told me the story, where that speech came from and how it came about. And it just makes me just even say what a dynamic um, warrior, ambassador, advocate she was for us.
Thanks, KK. I just want to look out at this group. Miss Prescott, do you remember me? It is so wonderful to see you, man. It's been years. Yeah, and Jim, it's great to see you too. And David, if you're still around, I think he might have gotten off, but this is some of the biggest giants that taught me so much over the years. And I'll make it a quick story. I have a problem with telling stories. I tend to just keep going on and on. So if you want to just cut my mic off, KK, that's fine.
Well, no problem doing.
I will tell you though that one of the things that I found is that the time that I was able to spend with Judy and friends like Celia and of course Mr. Ebert, um, that formed my what I was going to be like as an adult, and I think I turned out pretty good with those mentors, and um, I miss them dearly. And I even miss Darby. I miss some of these people they really did mold my life, and um, so it's hard to see you, Laura, because I remember sitting through a conference with you and you holding my hand just to get through it because it was a trauma conference. I don't know if you remember that, but it was very special to me. Um, so we're at the UN. David um, asked myself, Neil Cavada, and Celia Brown. We were going to be their first delegates as NGOs, and we had no idea what we're doing there. In fact, the first day we're there, some of you might remember Rosary Marinera. She was on the board of the Alliance of the Mental Patient Liberation Alliance, and we didn't get a table, a seat. The UN proposal was given to them that there's psychiatric disabilities, and they gave us a room
Hmm.
to have ad hoc to be part of the ad hoc committee on disability rights. And yours truly and other crazy folks sat on the outside of the table. The World Blind Association and all these big falutin organizations sat at the table. And while we're sitting around the table, um, fire alarm goes off, and Rosary starts mimicking the fire alarm. And it's like, oh no, our credibility just kind of sank out the window. And but needless to say, um, our credibility came back when Judy flew in and she was late, and she's going to actually speak to the delegation. She gets to sit up in front. If you've ever seen the UN, up in front, all the delegates are below. There's two big screens on either side. She's going to speak. Well, Sia and I are in the back, and she comes in. She's late, and she comes in and sits next to us in the very back of the UN, and she starts taking notes. And we figure, well, she's just adding to her speech that she's going to give, right? Well, no, she's making the outline to the speech. This is the first time that she's worked on it. It's like I'm thinking, oh no, it's going to be another rosary experiment. And and Judy jots down a bunch of things, and she's real nervous. And at that time, we just left her alone, let her go. She walks up in front, and by the time she's done, every delegate was standing, giving her a standing ovation. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And it's like, holy shit, I gotta, I gotta make her my friend. You know, so much so that as the years went by, one of the things that came from the Highlander statement that many of you know of was at the end was first and foremost, do no harm. And I remember I wanted to impress Judy somehow or another, and she was going to speak at NIAPRA's conference. And so I caught up with her after she was done doing her keynote speak, and I ran up to her and I take my shirt off and I show her my right arm and I go, look what I did. And I got it tattooed on my arm, first do no harm. And I said, this is in tribute to you, Judy. And she kind of looked me at, it's kind of strange, but as she always was very accepting. And interesting enough, she graduated from Rockland Psychiatric Center, a Rockland State Hospital. And that was the hospital we started our advocacy at. And um, I people like her and Ebert and others really were major players in my life that I don't think I'd be alive if I didn't know those people and if I didn't know what Judy stood for and what David has stood for years and Jim and Laura. And I remember Laura, you went to I think it um um was it you went on a human rights in Europe. I don't know what was it that you went to. I forgot now.
Uh, we went together, actually, Judy and I, with uh, Mental Disability Rights International, which is now uh, Disability International, that to Kosovo and to Hungary and a couple other countries. But we were there during 9/11, and so she. Anyway, I don't want to stop you, but we yeah,
But you came
that's
back
why we used
and
to talk.
you reported on that at Niapolis,
Yes.
and I it's one of those things that you just look at these people in awe and go, wow, I they might talk to me someday. But it was even better than that. I want to tell everybody that's in this group here, just to end this. I did have the opportunity to go with Celia and I passed it up because there's other people that I felt were more important to see Judy when she was in hospice but Celia came back and told me all about it and so on and it was rough. It was a rough time because she stayed on for quite some time too. But she will forever be an inspiration in my life. And and I knew Ted fairly well. Um, and I'll just say I like Judy better than Ted. I'll just say that. But Ted is his own experience, that's for sure. He was. God bless him. Um, so I'll end my comments about this is that we do have a person that's picked up the spirit of where that of those people. Where I put Jim in that category with David and Laura and and Ted and Judy and George Ebert and Mary Ann Ebert and many, many more that I can't mention, is that we have somebody that's a leader now that's really taken on the cause. And I love her to death. She's become such a good friend of mine, and that's Miss Cap. And I just want to thank you for inviting me tonight. And I love all you people. As somebody who's part of the crazy folks, as what Howie used to call us, um, this is my family. And if without this family, I would not be alive. And that's the truth. Love you all.
Thank you so much, Jim. Um, I love you dearly too. And Jim blessed me at the end of George Ebert's life to, connect, and we connected very deeply and profoundly at the end of his human journey. And I feel so blessed to Jim and I had met each other over years at the conferences at alternatives conferences, and we saw each other's workshops, but we didn't know each other. And we actually both were fighting with the community behavioral health system in Ohio, of all places. And we came across each other and we said, I think I know you. Imagine that. So it is a small world, and our paths were so interconnected, but all for 15 years and didn't even know it. And so Jim is a blessing to me. And that story about Judy writing the story, writing her speech just before. I I just want to highlight that that is the heart of our community. I think it should be authentic. I think it should come from the heart. I think that it should be spoken in that way. And I just honor that she had the authenticity to bring it from the heart right to the nations. And so it just, that story has forever touched me because her speech profoundly affected me. I've read it 1,000 times. So I don't know who would like to share next, but Jim, go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
Just one last thing for David. It's wonderful to see you, David, and you gave me an opportunity that I often think about, that one of the best opportunities I've ever had in my life is to be at the United Nations and try to sell people an idea that crazy folks aren't all that bad. And I remember calling your office, and Neil and I and you answered, and you said they're at the United Nations, and I hear a cheer in the background. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. It was a very special time for me. Thank you, David.
Beautiful. Thank
Philip said he
you. Thank
wanted to
you.
speak.
Yeah. Would you like to share next, Philip? Go right ahead. If you're, can you hear us, Philip?
You're muted, Phil.
Unmute yourself. We want to hear you.
Can you hear me now? Oh,
Yes, we
okay,
can.
good.
Victory.
Did you all get the tribute that I just tried to send in to Judi? Has it showed up yet? I wrote something and tried to, send it in.
It's in the notes. I have it. I can pull it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know
I
how
have
to
it.
get it to display on the screen, but there it is,
Okay. So Jim Godstein is our technical, I forget what he calls himself.
We're in trouble.
But our guru, I guess, some days. And we will get that out, Philip, and I value and appreciate so much that you took the time to do that. Thank you.
Sure.
I don't know if you want to share. Would you like to share anything verbally, or would you just like us to share that, what you've written?
Well, Judi and I were both at an IAPSRS conference in St. Louis in 1990, and I sat in on her workshop there, but I was really bummed out about something, and I can't remember what, but it was obvious to Judi that I was under the weather, so she really took me under her wing, and after the workshop was over, we went up to the top of the St. Louis Arch together and back. And of course, while we were up at the top, she made sure that I didn't jump out. And I didn't, But she really took me under her wing. And I've never forgotten her for that. I was just kidding about what I just said about jumping out. Did y'all hear
To
that?
her heart. Yes, we heard that. But that really speaks to her heart of humanity and the core principle of peer support, right? It doesn't matter if you're the presenter or in the audience. Every person matters, and we're there to support one another with those shared understandings. And so that she wrapped her support around you. That's the kind of, as I would say, radical solidarity we need to get back to, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
I just
really
value
took
that
me
story.
she really took me under her wing that day.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Hmm.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, you're
Would
welcome.
anybody else like to share?
Hey, Kay. Hi, this is Mary
Yes.
Van Pelt in Alamosa, Colorado, and I knew Judi, as other people have said. There is an archive for people who do research, and I'm one of those people at Boston University. I put it in the chat. You can find 30 boxes, 45 linear feet of Judi's archive documents, and they're online, and I'm sure you can work out things digitally or online with a librarian to get information. But I just think that's valuable. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anything after all your research that you would like to share? Not from just your research, but as you said, you knew her. Is there anything you'd like to share as a takeaway that was impactful?
No, I don't really have a story prepared. She was impactful, and I did get to meet her a few times. And I'm grateful for that. So yeah, she's influenced me as she's influenced all of us. So
Yeah.
thanks. As well as
Thank
David Oakes.
you.
I've met David Oakes, and I met a number of them people. I met Daniel Fisher. These are all at conferences, and a number of years ago, but it's been really important to me. So thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Can I just state that the one theme that keeps coming up, it's just resonating is authentic, authentic advocacy. It was from the heart. It was pure and it was real and it made it more palpable and, probably penetrated through some of the lies of, the opposition and all kinds of things. And so I want to just capture that because there was such a pure authenticity to it. Does anybody else want to share?
Yeah, can
Yeah,
I
I
say?
do.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I think.
I'm
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm Beth Blick from Minnesota, and maybe some of you happen to remember the Crazy Women Madness, Myth, and Metaphor film that she had been in, that she, with Ray Unziker, and Lucy and Kate Millett. And I'm, thinking of doing a workshop for the National Women's Studies Association next year when they meet in Atlanta, Georgia, on psychiatric abuse of women. As I try once again to get a hold of one of the board members. They do a really good job on disabled women's issues. And I feel like, even though the ADA was passed, that sometimes there are components out there that tend to forget that, that there are, that like to divide us and think that somehow the ADA is only for certain groups and so, how it divides us is that, the corporate media still likes to talk way too damn much about, those who are the mentally ill and dangerous, and it will not get over, the idea that there are those of us who are more likely, quote, to commit suicide than, we are to kill others. It just won't get over that. It's good old stubbornness.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I do want to highlight something that you said. I agree with you 1,000% about the ADA. Olmsted, we were talking about earlier. Yes, that is, the nothing about us without us, that includes us. And we're going to be talking a lot about that and moving towards a lot more of that dialogue in the new year as a lot of us,
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. But thank you for highlighting that
You
because we
bet.
need to get back to core and heart and rights. And, as we talked about, people don't even know what the history of the movement was anymore or the spirit of
Right.
IL, independent living and all of that and the fight and the heart and the passion behind that community. And I know David was one of the first to, say, hey, adapted actions with us. And we need to get back to core of community and solidarity. And I think this dialogue is really kind of bringing it back to center. So anybody else like to share?
Exactly.
But didn't Philip want to say something?
Oh, go ahead, Philip.
I've already forgotten what it was. Just goes to show.
So I can say a few words.
Go ahead.
Unless anybody else wants to speak ahead. But I'm Jim Gottstein with the Law Project for Psychiatric Rights. And I was doing stuff in Alaska and hadn't really, and I was locked up for a month in 1982 and lucky to have escaped being made permanently mentally ill by the system. And after I read, and I'm a lawyer, Bob Whitaker's book, Mad in America, in 2002, I thought, to me, not only was it a great read, but it was a litigation roadmap for how to challenge forced drugging based on it not being in people's best interest. And that's actually what caused me to form the Law Project for Psychiatric Rights. And I got kind of, before that, there was someone who said, oh, you should get involved nationally. There are all these great people. And I thought, well, I don't really have much to add to the great work that people are doing. But then I felt this was something that I could kind of uniquely do. And so I started kind of going on the conference circuit and joined NARPA and all that, the National Association of Rights Protection and Advocacy. And that's where I met Judi, and I would see her a lot. And at these, and I really totally echo what David Oak said about her. I mean, she was the real deal, and she was, the way I look at it, she was always, I would say, polite. Maybe some people will disagree with that, but she did not waver. If anything ever came up, where there was, some kind of, rights implication, or that people weren't being, strong on that, she would be very firm and, insist that, we all really had rights that should be respected. And, one of the things we've got it's hard to believe that Judi's been gone for, I think it's been 15 years. And, we've lost all these people. I briefly met Ray Unzicker. I didn't know Kate. Sally Zinman, George Ebert, and Marianne have been talked about. Ted Chabaziski, who I knew fairly well, just recently died. Darby Penny. In my mind, these were all giants. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. I shouldn't have. Anyway, so I apologize for that. And it, I once had, Judi came to Anchorage once for a conference, and I had the opportunity to fly her around Mount McKinley. So that was, or Denali, as it was called Mount McKinley then. And now who knows what it's called. But one of the things that, strikes me about all this is, where it seems like with the internet and all this stuff, it would be easier to organize, but it just doesn't seem like it's happening in the way that it was back there with the solidarity. And I think one of the tasks that we have to honor all these giants and founders is to find a way to do effective advocacy to get our rights recognized. And right now, boy, I'd say things are going backwards big time and fast. So that's my big thing, and it's something that I've struggled with a long time, is how to, effectively get the, people to understand how terribly counterproductive and harmful the mental health system is. And so I guess I'll just end with everybody that knows me would be disappointed if I didn't put the link to the report on improving mental health outcomes in the chat. So I'm going to do that. And but there's just so much evidence about how harmful and counterproductive this system is. And in a thumbnail, it's reducing the rate of recovery for people diagnosed with serious mental illness from a possible 80% to 5%, reducing lifespans by around 20 years or so. And for most people, it catastrophically reduces their quality of life while, there are these other choices, other approaches that, can, achieve such great things. And somehow we need to come together and, not just advocate, but make it happen. The revolution by Tuesday.
Yes, you said it. I love
Got
that
it.
because I think you're right. I wanna just second you because I've actually thought the same thing. Is you would have thought that, people had to organize the phone calls back in the day, right? Like remember those advocacy phone calls that occurred. And it's such a different time and you'd think it'd be easier, but it's a different time. It's the different, I mean, there's so many different elements. And I sat here and I wondered, I put it in the chat, what would Judy think of peer support now? What would Judy think of as she was, one of the icons, but the celebrity, survivor status that everybody's seeking now and the different things and, how did we get there? And so I ponder some of this, and
So,
it's really important that I think we get back to the core.
so it's one of the things I noticed just recently. It's probably been obvious for a long time, but they're not even necessarily calling it peer support anymore. They're calling people peer specialists. And
Sure.
I think it was just the last couple of days I look at that and it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe they're not even pretending
It
anymore.
depends what state you're in, because the certification and the medicalization and indoctrination occurs differently state by state, depending on, the level of integration and regulation.
Yeah, I
So
just
I
saw
do know,
a
And
disability
hypocrisy.
studies 6 course specialty in in I don't know, I don't remember how they said it. I mean, I thought peer support, but 6 classes you have to take and then you become a certified peer support specialist. It's like if you need 6 courses, I don't think you're going to be a very good support person.
no, and it's natural, but I do want to highlight something that Judy did and David and many and Ray Unziger tremendously. They were all close with Justin Dart as well, and they ran that race and they really spoke for the cross disability community and a larger scale coming together. And I'm working on a grant right now that the mental health peer support or what they refer to or behavioral health, I think they're referring
Mm-hmm.
to it now, to be statewide trained through a SIL, an independent living center. And I'm attempting to state the case that it was one of core foundational services that they kind of took and um, stole into the medicalization to bring it back to the social model. And I feel like that's the fight that we're going to be fighting is to really convert the conversation back to social and our community and out of the
Right.
disease, illness, diagnostic, indoctrination and
Yeah,
monetization that's
that
occurred.
garbage.
So I really value, Jim, you made me really think. Um, and so I do want to tell you guys, I also reached out to other SIL directors and said, hey, try to get your community, your behavioral health, peer support, let's take it back, state by state or something, because you're absolutely right. It's all completely now let's say a junior clinician, controlled and in the heart of it is very different. So 6 classes, no, doesn't really work either. And it is a natural organic thing that does happen in our community as well. So just to
So
kind of highlight that.
it's obviously been corrupted and co-opted, and people have been
Oh, yeah.
co-opted and all that. But one of the things that it's just, I would be bemused, except that it's so serious, is okay, you have something that it really works, which is, peer support principles, non-hierarchical, all the principles, which has been put forward so well by Sherry Mead and others in intentional peer support, and then Dan Fisher and the others in emotional CPR. Okay, so you have something that just really works. Okay, and
Sure.
and it really shows the mental health system that they're full of shit. Okay, so then
Exactly.
and then what they do is they, take over the name and say that they're doing it, and then turn it into what they're doing, which doesn't work, and it makes no sense.
Right. No, it doesn't.
Well, like for me, I'm up here in Alaska, and I know Jim, and I met Judi up there at the same meeting, and I was really impressed with her single focus and that she lived in a different world, that people with disabilities, people with psychiatric disabilities, totally had a right to be going through what they were going through and have support and not be tortured.
Exactly.
And not be locked away, not be shunned and stigmatized. So that really impressed me a lot. And Ray and Zuckler also came up. And I met David Oakes a long time ago before I came up to Alaska. And I was part of the Colorado Liberation Front in Colorado. And that was my introduction, was actually at a women's music festival when somebody was taken off the land. And that's like, I started out as an ally. And then I got locked up in California. But it's because all the trauma caught up with me. And I mean, since then, it's like I went through another whole thing where I ended up being houseless for a while. And I did houseless rights. And people deserve a right to find any kind of shelter that they need to. But everybody's interested in locking people up because they're homeless and they're surviving,
Right.
and so I'm just kind of waiting for, like, I know it's like the legal system isn't working for anybody. It's not the right kind of justice, and I've been working with Native folks a bit, and their system of justice is the same thing as governance. They don't separate the two. It's all about bringing people together and integrating and healing. It's always been around that. And so, like, I feel like waiting right now is like our system is going to keep falling apart. There's going to be more and more people suffering, more people having disabilities. And so I'm interested in how do we build community across the board and have all these processes around justice and healing instead of mental health issue, because like we're all kind of crazy. We're human beings. And then some people are in a political block together and they think they're normal. They're just in a political block. So I like going, when is it falling apart? I feel like I was made for things to fall apart. And then we go back to where we are as an indigenous people, where we cared about each other, we cared for the planet. And it's like, that's how we heal, up here in Alaska. If you're kind of going crazy or suicidal, people try to help them. But if they're not, they'll take them out to the nature and let them sit in nature for a while. They don't kind of try and torture that person into being better because they don't know what that is. They're very honest about that. I don't know what's right for somebody else. I can't say that. But we have the audacity in our mental health system when all these other places thinking that some people know how to fix other people. And we're all unique. We all on our different paths, So like I think in the future it's like, well, how are we going to address things falling apart? Because we have things falling apart right now. And we're going to go and deal with that, So whatever you are, I feel like, how are you going to help each other? That's kind of my take on this whole movement around Judi. She's just a really good-hearted person. How can I be that more human and that more believing everybody has a right to dignity and having their own path and their own voice? So that's what I just had to say. She is a really important person for me, having read her book, and been a good ally and then going through the whole thing. Done.
No, thank you so much. And I do have to just applaud, like, we all have a right to identify whether it's craziness or convergence, because it's going to look something different for each individual. And that, guess what? We should decide that, not somebody else that needs a hierarchical position. Because I think I really relate to the natural. How you said they go to the nature, they bring them to the nature to heal and rejuvenate, just like nature, right? Connect. And so we don't know what it's going to be for anybody else, but David had boycott normal, and that was a campaign. And I think that we need to get back to that, because I think that we're not the odd ducks. We're the ones that question. I mean, I relate so tremendously with my quote always is, I was naturally oppositional, defiant, and non-compliant. That's like my badge of, and people say you'll die with your rights on. Damn skippy, I will, because I'm going to keep fighting all the way. But, I feel like there is such a great need to remind people to start questioning, thinking for themselves. People don't as much anymore. And I want to bring it to the
Right.
point of where Jim said, the internet should be easier to organize. Sure, but it's also easier for a narrative to get out there that's not reality. If we realize how often pharmaceutical ads get to be run during, all of that. And so there's an element, and I wanna just really highlight that um there are several, we're talking about Judi and the MAD movement and all of that in this direction, but I'm also going to share there is a brewing across the country. Um, there's MAD culture collectives, and they are all kind of looking for the next thing. And I think that there is a really great need to get back to the core. And I think that um, like I almost want to say like hashtag independent living mad. Like I'm thinking of like that it's a coming together for rights, period, across the specter, across um the spectrum, and having radical solidarity, because it is about the human journey, and it's not about the
Yeah.
disability. It's that community is viewing through those lenses. And so just to have some rights. So I just want to highlight that, because what if
Okay.
Olmsted never came to pass, or the ADA, or and it was our heroes and our icons, but just because it came to pass does not mean they're working in our favor or they're being enacted. And so to take, to honor those that blaze those trails and obtain them, right? Fought hard. How about they uphold them? I think that might be the fight. So, yeah, would you like to share, Laura?
Right.
Yeah, thank you. I I love the conversation that's going on here. So I appreciate that, and for people putting this together, it's great. And of course, I remember you, Jim. It actually, I think it was it, that moment with you really impacted me too in my life, and how I then was at conferences and talked to people, and it really touched me deeply and reinforced what we're talking about here actually, which is that person to person connection is really powerful, and it works both ways, and it reminds me that you know uh, we're here for a reason. And so I was very grateful to you in that moment, and for that lesson in my life as well. So thank you for that. I really, really appreciate you, and it's lovely to see you. Very lovely. I'm struck by how many people, as Jim was saying, we've lost um, fairly recently, and how hard that is. I miss folks so much. So I just wanted to say just a couple things about uh, so much great things have been said about Judi, and a lot has been written, so I couldn't add so much to that. I met Judi in the 90s after a series of being locked up a lot and becoming homeless, and I got a job with the state Department of Mental Health after being homeless and being locked up and all of that. They happened to be looking for a human rights coordinator in Massachusetts, and I was just really fortunate that I got that job. And so I was sort of squarely in the middle of this kind of big job, and I had a lot to say about some of the policies that I thought were important to change, having come out of being locked up pretty recently. And it was in that context that actually, because Judi was in Massachusetts, I got a chance to meet her and talk to her. And it was through that avenue of human rights that I got to talk to her, which was really powerful. That because I didn't know anybody at that point that was out in the world doing that work. I just hadn't been around long enough to have met anybody who was doing that work. And I just was blown away with the things that people have talked about, how incredibly articulate she was, how insightful, how grounded in human rights she was. And I wanted to, when I was talking about rights, I was often talking about the impact of violence in our lives and the intersection of that and poverty. And she was, right in concert with that. And I just was I felt so kept company by her. And a little starstruck, I have to say, by her. And she was regularly, because I would get so nervous. I'm pretty anxious, and so public speaking actually is really hard for me. I get very, very anxious, and I usually stay up for at least a night or two the day before I have to speak, and it's so I make myself really tired, which is how I managed to do it. And she would come and she would talk to me, and she'd say, "Just do you, just do you, and just be yourself and do you." And I was so grateful for that because she was who she was. She didn't try and be anybody else or take on, she didn't get distracted, as people were saying. And I saw that over and over and over again. So it wasn't just what she wrote, it's how she lived her life. So she would get down off the stage, whatever stage that was, and they got really big, whether it was the UN or some really small conference with just a few people, and she was speaking, and it didn't matter. She would get down from whatever stage that was, and if somebody stopped her to talk to her, I would notice this. Like, she'd have all these folks following her, and she would stop and she would talk to that person, whoever they were, the same way as she talked to political folks, or she talked to legal folks, or whoever it was. She would talk to them all the same way. Oh, and I just loved that. It really informed and reiterated what I felt was true, which was that this movement was strongest from the ground up. It was strongest, the voice, the way of being. It was about all of us collectively respecting each other for who we are and our strengths, and meeting us where we are for who we are, and being really, really respectful about that. And that we each have something important to say and something important to offer. And I felt every time, truly, every time I was with her and I got a chance to be with her or do something, I would watch her do that. And it was really consistent. It wasn't, every now and again. It was really consistent. Judi talked to everybody the same way. And it was just a really important lesson for me that informed not just my work, but my life, really. I got to do some work with her and Ray at the same time. Ray and she were best friends, and that watching the two of them together, I'd follow behind them during conferences and stuff, And part of what I learned wasn't just that about who they were as giants in this movement, which they were, but also how to have fun. They had a lot of fun together, and they knew how to have fun together. So um, it was fun to watch them have fun together. And Ray loved to introduce people to great food. She did that for me. I was on disability. There's no way in God's green earth I could go out to dinner or, do the things that people were doing at conferences. And she would regularly take me out to dinner, and she'd order this food I'd never even seen before. And she'd have me try it because she knew I had never seen it before. And she would introduce it to me. Um, and Judi kept, if somebody called me to do something, because I loved working in the area of human rights and trauma and poverty. And if I got a call about doing something in that area, 9 times out of 10, it came from Judi Chamberlin. Judi had mentioned, me to somebody, and they would call me. And again, it was this way in which she just reinforced, being incredibly generous and having a huge heart. Um, and her way of playing, she loved jewelry. She loved going shopping, which I didn't know till I was in, I'd travel with her, and she loved going shopping, looking at things and trying things on. And she was a beautiful knitter. And, I would sit with her. I sat with her at the UN, and she would be knitting. And uh, and then when somebody would say something she disagreed with, she'd drop the knitting, and her hand would shoot up, and she'd get up and she'd say it right on point. She never missed a beat. And I thought, oh, God help the person who mistakes the fact that she looks like a grandmother sitting in the audience, because she just never missed anything. She really was sharp as all get out. And um, I used to love to do crossword puzzles, and I rarely could finish them. I'd just do one or two words or whatever, and I'd slide it over to her, and she just, without really, again, missing a beat of what was going on in front of her, would finish the crossword puzzle and slide it back to me. It was really just, again, a reflection of all the varied ways in which Judi was just this mental and mental giant. She really was. She was somebody who just didn't miss a beat, and she didn't get dissuaded, but she also knew how to have fun. And that's how she would tease me often. She would like just finish all my crossword puzzles before I could even get the first word out. Um, I also had the good fortune to meet Jim, who is here, and I have always been a little intimidated by Jim and his amazing way of being, just really a gentle soul and just brilliant. And I'm so grateful for the work that you've done. It's really helped my thinking as well. And David Oakes, who brought together the nexus, I feel like continually reinforced the importance of a cross-disability movement that focused on disabilities, from physical disabilities. It wasn't just physical disabilities, but the nexus of poverty, trauma, all of those things, people struggling with psychiatric disabilities, hearing voices, all those things came together in really powerful ways. And that he's always said in these forums, people were saying the same thing, and he and Judi, to me, and Ray led the way in that way, and saying, if we can come together and understand that this is much bigger than one issue, much bigger than one group, and not get stuck into that siloed thing, then we're on the right path. And that's always been huge for me, again, in the work that I've done. And through them and their generosity, David and Ray and Judi, I got to meet Leonard Roy Frank at Highlander and NARPA and those places. And Sally Zinman, and I've just feel really blessed to have had that opportunity, and to have known them in a variety of different ways. Judi and I were in doing a fact-finding mission in both Kosovo and in Hungary during 9/11. We were stuck over there for, we'd already been there 10 days or something, and it went on 2 weeks, and there was no money coming in. We were stuck there and we couldn't get home. But the good news is that we got time to spend together, and I was very grateful that I got a chance just to know her a little bit in a different way. But the other thing that happened during that time is because we had more time, we could meet with people in the community, and I got a chance to listen to her talk to folks about peer support in some of these countries where there were no ex-patients. There were just patients. There were patients because people lived and died in those institutions. And it was really powerful to see the way she brought history and the way she brought rights work into various cultural contexts and started so many movements. The basis through education and support in various cultural contexts, and then people would take off with that. And she was just very generous with her time and with her knowledge and with her amazing brain and kindness and humanity. I also wanted to say that George Ebert, I have a t-shirt hanging in my closet that I adore to this day. I had said to him at a conference, what a great t-shirt that is. It's No Force, Mental Health. And he took it off in the middle of the conference and he gave it to me. And so there he is walking around without a shirt. And I said, oh my God, no, it's okay, And he was insistent. He said, no, you got to take it. And to this day, I actually don't wear it because I've never wanted for it to wear out. And it reminds me of him. And God, it'll make me teary. And the amount of generosity that comes out of this movement. And I just love having it. And I'm very grateful that that he did that and for that lesson. Darby and I, before she died, got to write a chapter in a book called From Searching for a Rose Garden. The chapter is called The Co-optation of Survivor Knowledge and the Danger of Substituted Value and Voice. And that is sort of, we were talking about, she was coming from the perspective of talking about the co-optation of values and voice that come out of the peer support movement, that peer movement. And I was talking about the kind of co-optation that had happened that I'd seen in the trauma movement. And so we got a chance to write about that. And I don't like that the book is expensive and not very accessible to people. I wish it was more accessible to people. But I'd like to try and find a way to make maybe that more accessible to people so that people who are interested might be interested in a conversation about it, because I'm interested in a conversation about it in order to make that different moving forward. So I think that's an important piece. So thank you. I've taken up too much time, but I sure appreciate everybody. And Judi, hi, really nice to see you. So, thank you.
Is it okay if I take that as an introduction and speak briefly?
Yes, please.
Like, Laura, I'm so glad to see you. All of you on this call, and truly the people I've met through this movement are some of the most intelligent, fun, creative, amazing human beings. And it's like, I believe that's partly of how we all got labeled, But I just, Laura, I have such amazing memories of your talks and how passionate and well-spoken you always are. To me, you can talk as long as you want. But anyway, I just I hadn't really planned what I was going to say about Judi, but I hope many of you have seen. I've been putting in the chat little things about Judi. One, that we still sell our book at the National Empowerment Center. We don't really make a profit on it. We kind of keep printing it. You know, paperback books are not very profitable nowadays, but we want people to have it available. I also put a link. Leah Harris did a short video about Judi's life. I put the link there. That's also the National Empowerment Center website. It's just a free online video, which is, I think, really well done. I also put a link to the PDF. Before, when Judi was failing in health, some people, and Laura, you might be one of the people who helped to organize it. I don't know. In Boston, organized this tribute to Judi, where a lot of people came from around the country, as well as a lot of local people, and it was just phenomenal. She was there to enjoy it all, and her partner, who was a fairly new partner, Marty, Fetterman was there. Anyway, the all of the things people wrote down were put into that little PDF to remember her. But I think when I think about Judi, I could speak about when I first met her. Honestly, I was like Laura. I got involved with Massachusetts DMH, which amazingly was pretty open-minded. They had this human rights conference. After I had experienced involuntary commitment and then started speaking out, saying what's going on, how do they take people and tell them they're mentally ill and lock them up, and it's not easy to get out.
All this other crap.
And anyway, I started working on those human rights conference. I was getting paid as a whatever, a human being. I used to call myself when I introduced myself. I didn't say I'm an ex-patient or whatever. But anyway, and Judi spoke and regularly was involved. And then I got a phone call from Judi and Dan Fisher saying, would you like to apply for a job at National Empowerment Center? And it was such an honor of my life to be on the phone with the two of them and have an interview. I'm like, oh my gosh. It was through my work through these conferences that I organized in Massachusetts. Back in the day. But anyway, it was an honor to know Judi in person. I thought, Jim, I thought you were going to say earlier that, how Judi was, I can't remember, you said she was really nice or kind. To me, she had this edge to her voice that was like, nobody's going to step on me. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it could be a little grating maybe, but the reality was she was powerful. She was always in her power. And even when her lungs were failing late in her life, it was still, Judi was an amazing human being. And I want to say also, I know there's so many people who've been involved with her and known her. One of her wishes, I mean, I was just Google searching now. She was in the New York Times several times, but I remember she said she wanted her obituary to be in the New York Times. And it was. And they called her like the grandmother of the movement. I was trying to look for the exact wording, but I didn't find it. Oh gosh, something else I was going to say. Oh, anyway, she did so many different things over so many years. And the sad thing, as you all were talking about right now, kind of getting on a sideline, was her book is still relevant today. And she said that when we republished it and she wrote a new foreword, it's like, oh my gosh, will things ever change? I mean, I like to think that many things have changed. There are a variety of options, which you have explored wonderfully at these meetings over the last 5 years. And yet it's still a fraction of the treatment that goes on. Anyway, I'm really honored to be one of the many, many people who got to know Judi and spend time with her. And she certainly touched my life, as did just about everybody on this call here right now, too. Appreciate all of you.
So I just want to say that, Judi, you're, I think, kind of one of the unsung heroes of the movement. I mean, for so many years, and I've been a big fan of yours for, I don't know, probably 20 years.
Thank you, Jim, but this call's about Judi. You're one of those too, Jim. No, it's just
everybody's talking about Darby and Ray and Ted, and I definitely put you in that category, and Dan.
Thank you. It's been an amazing part of my life. I mean, if I hadn't been involuntarily committed to hospital in Boston way back in when, I don't know what my life would be, but like you said, it's been over 20 years that I've been involved in, and I've met, amazing people. I have to admit, I do kind of miss the in-persons. Laura, do you remember when we sang songs like and stayed up? We called it the Breakfast Club. That was my first NARPA conference. Laura and I and two other people. We just we had so much fun. And I mean, you're not the only one. There's other people who just had these moments where it's somehow it's like you don't have to put up a guardrail. It's like you just can connect and enjoy people because they have been through something similar to what you've been through. We all have different
Right.
experiences, but it's amazing to be part of this, and yeah, I hope it continues. Happy to continue to be part of it. Well, I'm still alive and around.
Oh,
Thanks.
we're so grateful for you, Judine. You are a blessing, and I just have to say, like, you make me laugh because, I'm on meetings and Dan will say, "Where is this? Judine already has it." And, Dan, I'm just saying, I loved, as I refer to him lovingly, he's Daddy Dan. Where would he be without you, right? And so you are an absolute, and I think there's a lot of unsung heroes. I think Jim is right. There's a lot of people that are sometimes in the background or doing the legwork or doing the research or doing, and we need to celebrate everybody because it takes all of us. And I kind of think of a hand can't be a hand without a foot and without a body and without, we all do have to come together. And I just keep hearing I'm writing down little themes, and I'm hearing humanitarian, right? And I'm hearing um authentic. I have to be honest, like, Eugene, you made me almost cry because I wish NARPA was like that. I wish the NARPA conferences, because I know what you're talking about. I remember them from back in the day. There was a lot of alternatives conferences and different things. And you know um and I do think that there is a place and a space, and I think that in the new year I think there may be a little more power behind it to push and to ask these basic questions, right? Like I always ask, am I a visionary or am I delusional? And like just kind of start to challenge in little ways, right? And don't I get to decide? Because hey, apparently I was really grandiose. I don't know. I was thought I could live outside an institution. That's pretty grandiose, isn't it? So, I have to say that I think it starts with the question. And I do think that I really just want to echo about the social, engagement and the social support. I think that's kind of the part I want to
Hmm.
kind of highlight is that I think that's what we missed. It got very, uh, God bless. I keep asking what would our um, trailblazers think of their support of now, right? And um, it's so different than what the original heart and intent was. And as we just recently lost Ike Powell as well, because I had the honor to train really early on, to go across the country and train peers right out the chute with their curriculum. And I think the curriculums now are totally different. So I want to get back to that. What did you say? What was it? The Breakfast Club? We need to have those communities. We need to have that authentic connection. I mean, really, that is what it comes to, because, eh, if we really focus on the connection and the humanity and the heart of why we do this, and that's what I keep hearing, then we can have revolution by Tuesday. And I think that we really I just value so much all the stories. This is a recording that I think I'll cherish. I want to highlight that Myra and Dan both said that she was unshakable. They both said the very same thing in the same way. She was stable, a rock, and a powerhouse force that even in her knitting would not be moved. And so they both it's kind of funny how they both gave very similar perspectives, but Dan just wanted to echo the impact that she had on his and because I do think we all come from very different perspectives. and different educations and different backgrounds and different, but we have a shared understanding. And when we can share
Mhm.
space and truly, truly resonate with one another, no matter where they come from. Love you, Jim. Um, I think that's how we find those breakfast club moments to push movements forward. And I think that's the core. So, Dana, would you like to share?
Okay, sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Dina Cutter. I've lost my voice, but I'm going to try to speak anyways. I'm actually in Chile right now, in Santiago, Chile, and just they had a mad pride march down here, and they had an event inside mad camp. And I wanted to just, since everybody's talking about the authentic community, jump in and like share that because of the early days of the psych survivor movement and all the stories that I would hear about everyone getting together, like before the conferences became in conference rooms, that there would be in-person gatherings and it was more authentic and singing songs and mad movement songs. And so I had the vision to create like what's called Mad Camp, where we could do that again. So I just wanted to invite everybody to Mad Camp, to come back together in person. It's so important to be out from behind the screens and back together, and where we can just connect and feel liberated. And I just want to say how much Judi was a big inspiration for me. I had read her writings in my search for the movement and search for other psych survivors. And my search, like when I finally started meeting people, was in 2010. And then I learned that she had passed, and I was just heartbroken that I missed the opportunity to meet her, but she just affected me so much. And I owe so much to her efforts. And many people on this call, I love you so dearly. And so, yeah, thank you.
Did you say
Thank
you
you
were?
so much.
Did you? Dina? Did you say you were in Santiago, Chile?
Mm-hmm.
Are you
Yep.
Chileno? Are you Chileno?
No, I am not Chileno. I'm just down here visiting from I live in California.
Oh,
but
okay.
but I was invited down here, and the like the activism down here is truly impressive. So I'm learning a lot from other Chileans in the MAD movement down here.
Good.
And I've been visiting.
I lived in Santiago in 1964.
Oh, wow. Wow. Dean, I just thank you so much, and I am so aligned with what your words, your heart, and I want to propose, and we can talk about this later and down the road. But I love that you guys have done the Mad Camp, but maybe working up to it, if you'd like to, we could do like a Mad Camp preview where we get it online. I hate that everything has to be virtual at times, but maybe try to get the heart back and give that virtual experience to some that maybe I would love to talk to you down the pike for that. But I think there's a great need. I really do. And so I'm with you 1,000%.
Yeah, I agree. Because not everybody can make it in person, and we just have to come back in our authenticity.
Yeah,
really appreciate that.
thank you. And thank you so much. And thank you for joining us, in the midst of all of that. I value so much.
Oh, thank you. And I'm down here, they're visiting. They had a mad farm. So I'm going to go look at Got a mad farm down here.
Yes,
And
I
they're
love
looking at
that.
setting up a mad intentional community. So I'm going to go look with them at the land that they're thinking about. So all kinds of exciting things happening in Chile.
Ooh. Would you like to come and share with, with everybody what you've learned at some point? Because I think right there is what I would call a very beautiful community option, is as I refer to it. People like to refer to them as alternatives. Hell no. They're options because we should be demanding them, not just begging for others, right? So
This
I
should
would
be our way of
love,
life.
yes, that's beautiful. Oh, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful. Thank you. And thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah,
Oh, you're welcome.
we'll talk soon.
And does anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
So I have a
If not,
story that was sent in
I'm ready.
that I need
Oh,
to
yes, you
read.
did.
So, hold on a second. I had it on my screen. Here we go. So she titled it "Knowing and Loving Judi Chamberlin," and it's Irit Shimrat who wrote this. She said, "I'm very, very lucky to have met Judi at several conferences in the late 1980s and early 1990s. I was already wowed by her long before I met her, having read her book and heard from Don White's and others about her amazing achievements. And I was always super impressed when I heard her speak in person. More than anyone else I know, Judi knew how to be fierce and diplomatic at the same time. I so admired her ability to tell hard truths without becoming enraged or alienating anyone. I envied her skill in speaking to different audiences, including so-called mental health service providers, and making them listen sympathetically. I love that Judi was so clear about disgusting psychiatry's disgusting of human rights being as privilege. I love that she said, we have a moral imperative to fight for justice. I love how she naturally and sensibly she shared the principles of social justice, feminism, humanism, and psychiatric survivors' rights. I love that she played a huge role at VEC, the Vancouver Emotional Emergency Center, which offered real support for people in crisis in place of psychiatric oppression, and is the best thing that ever came out of Vancouver, where I lived. VEC lost the funding pretty quickly after it became evident that it was doing a better job than psychiatry had actually done helping people. Nowadays, I can't even find a trace of its existence on the internet. I love that she wrote such an important, brilliant, and accessible book and became such a huge leader in so many organizations without ever bringing any ego into any of it. I love how she recognized the importance of being part of the cross disability movement and other social justice movements. I love how smart and how kind she was. On a personal note, I love how much from Judi. I I love how much fun Judi was to hang out with. How quickly we became good friends, and how she left safe. Oh, how she felt safe to confide in me so soon after meeting me. I love how she was with me and with all her many friends and admirers about her life, her convictions, and even the process of her dying. It's not often a person gets to really know and enjoy the company of one of her greatest heroes, and I will forever stop. I, I will I will never stop being grateful for having had this experience with Judi. That's it. Very powerful. You feel like
That was
you know
really
her
powerful. Yes.
and wish you know her.
And we need more of each and every little bit, whether it be that authentic connection or the cross intersectional work that, I mean, we're all talking about that's really important, or the heart and the humanitarian. But I think the most important thing out of that one is that she valued being a part of community more than her own name. And I think that right there is like, it almost makes me cry, because I think people got so caught up in what they can gain, or as I refer to it, the celebrity survivor and the pure popular movement, that they could circle behind one or two. And she valued every person in the room, as that's been echoed over and over again, that whether it was speaking to a crowd of 4,000, she honored and celebrated each and every one. And I think that that's the core humanity of why we do what we do, because we've been looked past, beyond, over, and felt those levels of injustice and dehumanization that we want to actually rehumanize and reignite the spirit of an individual, because we do know that it might have only taken those kind words from one individual. And so I think it's kind of getting back to the core of that heart, of why we do what we do, for that shared understanding. And I think that gets lost. I really do. And I think that, to be very transparent, I think that being uh, let's say non-compliant now is a negative thing, when it's something should be celebrated, because it takes somebody to stand up. Everybody else can keep walking, right? But it's easy to fall for anything. And so, we're not deceived. We don't fall for anything. We're going to honor everybody, but we're going to question, because, I think that's where, even just in the questioning, we should not be criminalized for that. And if we dream big, we shouldn't be diagnosed for that. And the human journey is a unique experience. We don't have all the answers, and I think people should maybe stop pretending they do and allow the journey to unfold. And so I think that that's a
Hmm.
part of the wonder. If you really think about her life and all that she did, nobody would have said she could have done that. Everybody would have counted her out. And I think it really is the heart of, never count the underdogs out. So I believe, more than anything, right now we are a bit of the underdogs, but I do believe that we will be those overcomers. But I think it is about educating the next generation on why the movement happened, how it took place, because everybody is just concerned about, to be honest, making a space for themselves, and having a platform and all of that, instead of providing community collaboration. And I think that everybody here, I just value the time that you shared, the stories that you shared. I know that um, Susan and I are so looking forward to the next year. We have some phenomenal things planned, and we really want to move all of these dialogues forward. We want to expand them. We want to get as Jim always says, go to the echo chamber, right? Like, we can't keep hearing ourselves. How do we get it beyond? And so I asked one last question. Judi was heard. She touched hearts from sea to shining sea, as she rocked the United Nations with her speech, right? And so, how do we bring that spirit of advocacy back? How do we reignite it? How do we get it to try to take back, some of the territory and trails that they blazed before us, that we've lost, because we have, and that's the reality. And that kind of opens up the dialogue. If anybody has anything else they want to share, or they want to share any more stories. But I think the heart of the advocacy, the humanity of it, and the human connection in the authentic manner is the biggest takeaway that we can all learn and get back re-engaged with from Judi Chamberlin's journey. So I just want to thank everybody so much